Hello everyone, welcome to the School of Abundance. I'm your host, ShawnQ, and I'm curious, have you ever found yourself expanding into new levels of your business or your life, and yet that hidden gremlin we all know as imposter syndrome rears its ugly head, slowing you down, paralyzing you, or even stopping you from sustaining that growth? Or maybe you've even had a client who has a dream in their soul, but for some reason, they haven't been able to manifest it, make it a reality. Well, in today's episode, I'm interviewing quantum success coach, purpose partner, and world traveler, Malvina Mesler, who's going to show us how to really tap into flow so we can understand the energetics of successful living and successful business. We're also going to explore one powerful exercise you can walk your clients through that will reveal secret, subconscious stories and beliefs that may be limiting them or holding them back. I've been doing this every morning for a while, and it's been so helpful. If you're live with me, go to put #team live. If you're on the rerun, go to put #team rerun. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Let us know where you're tuning in from and what kind of work are you? What kind of coach are you? What kind of work are you doing today, and what kind of coach are you? Now, if this is your first time, I'm your host, ShawnQ. I am an abundance coach, a high-ticket sales trainer, and a 7-figure launch strategist. And I help coaches like you live more abundantly so you can coach more powerfully, change more clients' lives, and change the world. Now, I want to check in. How are you feeling? Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Go ahead and slow yourself down. Maybe put your hand on your heart. And give yourself a moment to center yourself. You know, every morning I've been waking up at around 5 in the morning. And it's been really interesting because one of the very first things I do is about 30 minutes of working out and yoga. And the very next thing I've been doing is journaling and using an exercise to kind of set my intention, but also to explore the world within me. You know, when I was in my early 20s, I was trying to outrun a sense of isolation and loneliness that had really grabbed a hold of my personality, my mood, my disposition. And what I found myself doing was I was trying to outrun isolation, but I ran right into perfectionism and overachievement and burnout. And what happened was I began to lose sight of who I was. I was so desperate. I had a vicious desperation to find some solid ground outside of me with the community I was a part of, the leaders I surrounded myself with, the work I was about, the friends I was around. And it wasn't until I realized one small secret that began to really shift things for me, began to shift my own insecurity, my own desire for something outside of me. And that was realizing that the solid ground I had so desperately craved and wanted wasn't outside, wasn't on a distant shore somewhere. It was always within. It was right here. And I had always had access to it. You know, someone once said, the quality of your life will be determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. What questions are you asking yourself? Have you found yourself in this same space where you're trying to outrun something and you're running into the arms of something even more toxic or just as toxic for you, just as abusive for you? Let me know in the chat. The quality of your life will be determined by the quality of the questions you ask yourself. So I've been doing this exercise, and I've been journaling every morning. So I do my 30 minutes of yoga, and I do this journaling exercise. And what's been really powerful is uncovering and identifying the secret subconscious beliefs that I still held on to, that were still slowing me down, still limiting me. Maybe you already know. Let me know in the chat if this is true. Maybe you already know there are some beliefs that you're holding on to for dear life because it's what you needed in the moment, but they're no longer serving you. Or maybe there are stories you keep telling yourself every single day. And maybe they served you at one point, but they don't anymore. How many of you, let me know in the chat, maybe this is you, you have felt like there's something inside of you just holding yourself back. The exercise I've been doing and I want to share with you will help you uncover that. This is the exercise. So what I've done is I take a journal and I've written on one page, when I was 5 years old, ... And then on another page, I've written, when I was 10 years old, ... And then the next page, when I was 15 years old, the next page when I was 20 years old, the next page when I was 25 years old, the next page when I was 30 years old. I leave them blank. And each morning, I focus on just one of these times in my life. When I was 5 years old, what did I believe about family, about protection, about security, about myself? What did I really desperately need that I wasn't receiving when I was 5 years old? And where did I go find it? Oftentimes, we will find what we need. If we need love and we're not receiving it in a healthy way, we're going to go find love, and it may not be the best for us. If we need hope, if we need community, if we need belonging, we're going to find it, but it may not be as healthy for us. And so I asked myself when I was 5 years old, what did I really need that I wasn't receiving, and where was I finding it? When I was 5 years old, who was around me and what beliefs about the world were they handing to me that I just accepted as true? And I just take some time, go inside and explore what was happening in those different times of my life. And what I've uncovered is, wow. And what you'll uncover if you choose to have the courage to step into this exercise are some of the things that showed up when I was 5 that still show up today. It allows you to reveal where some of your beliefs and your stories started from. What about when you were 10 or 15 or 20? What about 25 or 30 or 35 or 40, however old you are? Begin to identify what were the stories that were handed to me, and do they still serve me? Are they still showing up for me? Can you see, are you getting how taking a moment to reflect inside, going within, will allow you to understand yourself better? And I fully believe this. Somebody put this in the chat if you're watching live. Self-awareness births self-control. It gives you more options and choices to heal the story, to change the story, to reshape the story. Self-awareness breeds self-control. So as you're processing this, as you're trying to go to that next level, to expand in your life, ask yourself, what bags am I still holding on to that I was given when I was 5 or 10 or 15? What am I still dragging along that's holding me back? I was in a conversation once with a boat speed racer. So they had this massive boat, super thin, and they were going like super fast. And he told me something. He said, just one small piece of kelp, if it attaches to the motor or the spinny thingy, I don't know what it's called, it will slow you down by up to 30 miles an hour. One small piece of kelp. And so what these boat racers do is they examine their boat and they ask themselves and they search for all of the seaweed that may have attached itself between races. What's the seaweed that may be slowing you down? I encourage you, do this exercise, process this exercise, and I guarantee it will reveal some things that once removed, once shifted, once reshaped, may allow you to speed up. This brings me to my guest. Today we have Malvina Messler. I have had several conversations with Malvina. Malvina has actually worked as a client with me. She's actually come into our studio before. She's done some really great work. And I feel like every single time I check in with Malvina, whether it's in her Instagram stories or just check in with her via text or messenger, she's in a new part of the world. She's doing some new exercise or new event or new conference, and she is on fire. And her specialty is using neuroscience to unlock the subconscious beliefs that may be holding you back or paralyzing you, and instead helping you tap into flow, where things feel so good, so natural, and so easy. Are you ready for this? Let's go ahead and give Malvina Messler a huge round of applause. Malvina, hey, how are you, my friend?
Hi, Shawn. It's so incredible to be here. Talking about abundance, my favorite topic.
It's so good to have you. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. I want to jump right in. You call yourself a quantum coach. What does quantum success mean?
I love this question. Yes, there are so many different modalities out there, different types of coaches. And I started as a mindset coach, and I took my journey to becoming a quantum mindset coach for a big reason, because quantum coaching really allows you for those quantum leaps, which are rapid shifts in your life. And so I help a lot of people who come to me are 40 years old or even older. And so the limiting belief of I'm too old, to do this, to reinvent myself, to take my life to the next level. And so with quantum coaching, that is not an objection, because we step away from linear thinking, sequential thinking, when 1 + 1 = 2, and we actually compound different actions, which I called quantum actions and quantum decisions, to create quantum leaps in your life and really unleash your fullest potential in a nick of time.
I love it. So you mentioned you make the shift from linear sequential thinking. I tend to be very analytical myself. And so I'm curious, what does it mean? Like, what does that look like to go from linear thinking with the client to compounding thinking with the client?
Good question. I used to be a business coach and a franchise executive. So in a business world, in my past life, I grew up in linear thinking. And so it serves us in so many ways. We have SMART goals that really help us stay organized, plan our day. However, it really is this exponential thinking that can take us to the next level. So there's nothing wrong with linear thinking. However, if you're really up to big things, if you really want to step into your wildest dreams and really shoot for the moon. So I teach clients how to set hacks, which are huge, unbelievable goals or moonshots. If you have some of those really deep desires, maybe not just increasing your revenue by 10% or your income, but starting a new organization or moving to another country or retiring your parents or whatever that may be for you, then this non-traditional, non-linear thinking can really offer a beautiful highway to get there.
So when you say, like, you don't just do SMART goals, which is helpful for some people, you create, I think it was hugs, huge, unbelievable goals. How do you create those without it becoming overwhelming? Because I've heard some people say, like, I create all these big goals, and then it's just really overwhelming to, like, see it. How do we create goals that actually empower us? Because I know you actually help people with empowerment coaching rather than overwhelming us.
That's a good point, Shawn. So I personally believe that the sky is not the limit, but your vision is. And so when you set a vision that will pull you to greatness, you are really setting the stage for goal setting. So I actually believe that the first step in any goal setting is setting a vision, because when the going gets hard, when we get overwhelmed by the everyday life, by obstacles that come on our way, if we are just looking, few steps ahead, it's so easy to get discouraged. But if we have this vision that is greater than us, then there is something more powerful than ourselves that we look towards, for that inspiration, for that motivation, for that determination to stay in the game, to stay on the court. So I personally think that those hacks, those big visions, and some of our biggest goals are really not designed to be all achieved necessarily, but to really set the path for us. Because what it does is, we're working with the mind. One of the things I really like talking about is neuroscience of change. And essentially, the extension to which you can be successful is the extent to which you allow yourself to dream, to vision, and to design the reality in your head. So if you're designing that success only to, let's say, 2xing your business, and that's the extent of the imagination and the visioning that you have, then you're not giving your brain a chance to actually work for you. And our subconscious mind is very powerful. We know now that we only use that our conscious mind is only used about 5% of the time, and it's subconscious mind that's used 95% of the time. So when we set those big, lofty goals, we're actually activating our subconscious mind to start driving the bus towards those goals. And we really need to then surrender to how it's going to happen. And this is the tricky part. This is when quantum coaching comes in, and the energetics of success, because there are many other elements there. Like if you relinquish the linear thinking, then what do you replace it with? So there's a different roadmap. I sometimes compare it to almost like if you have the coder's language, and you're talking in codes, in website development and so forth, and someone is speaking English, you can't even understand each other. So the quantum thinking and vision-driven thinking requires a different approach. So there's a completely different set of reactions, different timeline, and different awareness once you step into this way of living life and pursuing success, happiness, joy in life.
So you mentioned like it's really, where is the bus driving, right? What's the direction? Where are we going? And it kind of reminds me, because you mentioned like consciously, we only really live in that 5% of the time we're conscious of what we're doing, and then 95% of our behaviors, actions are subconscious. It reminds me of, when driving home from work or from a place or driving to a familiar spot, you almost forget you're driving. I don't know if you, let me know in the chat if you've ever been to this place before where you're driving and then you realize, how did I get here? I didn't even realize I was driving. Is that subconscious behaviors and reactions what you mean when you say you do conscious work? You help pull the subconscious into the conscious, or is it something completely different?
So you actually get to, and I love your analogy, that's exactly how it works. So for anyone who's still doubting that there is this supercomputer in your subconscious mind that can help you, just reflect on it next time you're driving to a grocery store or somewhere, and you'll notice that. So essentially, our subconscious mind, there's something called RAS, Reticular Activating System. And it is like this lens in our mind, and it essentially scans for information that is in alignment with what we put in. It's almost like you're going to Amazon shopping cart and you say, I want Mercedes-Benz, this specific model, and you put that order in, and your reticular activating system is scanning reality around you to find that and bring that into your life. So that's why sometimes I'm sure many of you experience that when you wanted something, let's say a car, a specific model, or anything, prior to you deciding you wanting it and communicating it, whether just quietly in your mind to the subconscious mind or verbally, Prior to that, you weren't noticing this particular Mercedes Benz, but once you declared it or thought that, suddenly they're everywhere. It's like almost everyone decided to buy the same car. Have you noticed that? That's because that's essentially the proof that our brain is so powerful that once we're sleeping, and actually Edison and Einstein would often say that if they couldn't solve the problem, what they would actually do is they would take a break and go to sleep or take a nap, because they knew that their subconscious mind was working on solving that problem for them. They've already placed an order. It's like, the order is coming. Amazon is processing your order. Trust that it's on the way.
I love it. So we have this RAS. This, I think you said it's the reticular activating system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So we have this reticular activating system, this RAS system in our brain. It's called the subconscious, like how we're processing information on a subconscious level. And essentially, what we can do is we can tap into that RAS and say, hey, I want what I really, really, really want. I want my vision. I want the direction. I want my subconscious to work on my behalf to make that happen. Is that kind of what you're sharing?
100%. And that really sets our brain in a certain direction. So you become the CEO of your life, the master of your mind, and you get back in a driver's seat. Otherwise, our mind is designed to solve problems. And you know what? If you don't give it a problem worthy of solving, a difficult problem like, I want to be a millionaire, that's a freaking big problem worthy of your brain to figure out how it can make it happen for you. And if you don't have any problem, which is a vision, a hug that's put in your brain to solve, what happens then, our brain will start looking for problems and then starts creating problems. And sometimes that happens a lot in relationships where we sometimes say, oh, this person is always creating new problems. And that's a great example of how our brain cannot stop solving problems. So if we know this about our brain, why not give it a problem worthy of us, worthy of solving, and let it do its thing. And then what happens next in quantum thinking, we open our awareness, because now we have to be aware of how our brain, our universe will bring us those solutions. And it's, again, we're not talking linear thinking. So it's not just gonna be, okay, I pick up a phone and I start cold calling my clients, and then therefore from that action someone will call me back or someone will answer and maybe I'll get a client. This is different. This is, with the power of our mind, we have to be aware that some of those whatever we're calling in may come in a different form. So maybe we will have an opportunity like the one right now presented itself in front of me. Malvina, would you like to be on a show? Oh, sure, this is a great idea. And it's not through cold calling that I may potentially be in front of someone who will hear the message and will feel compelled to working with me, right? Or maybe we will walk into the grocery store and be a kind human being and help someone, who dropped something, pick it up. And before you know it, we start a conversation and that leads to something else. So we gotta have our awareness open.
I know that this sounds very academic, and yet it's so real because you grew up in, I believe, Poland in Europe, and your whole life changed when you began to leverage these principles in your own life. Can you share a little bit about what that journey was like and what it looks like today as you tap into these principles?
Ooh, that's a long journey, and it started when I was a child, and I grew up in communistic Poland, so not the version of Poland that we have today. And so my memories as a child are of that that I had a very great childhood. Like it literally shows up in black and white for me. And that's really true because behind Iron Curtain, the life was very limited. There was no possibilities. No one could dream about being entrepreneur and starting a business because there was no private sector. Entrepreneurship didn't exist. Not only that, we didn't even have chocolate candy. We had lollipops. That was the only candy we had. We didn't have bananas, oranges, colorful T-shirts. We couldn't read certain books. And the Communistic Party, this was my first lesson in terms of the power of mindset. Why would they prohibit certain books? Why would they prohibit MTV? Why would they prohibit going outside of the Iron Curtain to other countries? They knew very well that this is the power of mindset. But when a thought can infiltrate our brain, it can plant a powerful seed. And so they protected it for as long as they could. And then John Paul, who became a former pope, and this is not a religious pitch, he became bigger than Poland, right? And so they had to let him come to Poland and speak. And when he spoke, I really consider this being a motivational speaking, not so much religious talk, because he really ignited the hearts and minds of Polish people and really did something powerful where suddenly the words like possibility, opportunity, dreams, that were in our dictionary but didn't mean anything, he brought them to life. And then those words landed on so many people's minds. And one of those people was Lech Wałęsa, who back then was a simple electrician. And he didn't even go to college, but he was so inspired by this message that he decided, you know what, maybe we can live a better life. Maybe there's more than just waiting in lines for a little bit of sausage and flour. Maybe there is a better life. And he has never seen that life. He's never been abroad. And so he initiated a movement of labor workers that came together to speak to the Communistic Party about their problems. And that was called a Solidarity Movement, which after many months led really led to the breakdown of communism, and so many other countries followed, but also adopted the Solidarity Movement. And this man became elected as the first democratic president of Poland. No college education. And he made another impossible thing possible. He received a Nobel Peace Prize. So this is what I experienced as a young person. The power of mind was just so vivid to me. And so then I was emboldened in that thinking and really was seeking that. So when I went to college, everyone was telling me, I mean, I was a pretty good student, but I wasn't a straight A student. And everyone was telling me I would never get into the university because it was called Jagiellonian University. And it is so old that one of our famous alumni is Nicolaus Copernicus. That's how old it is, the famous astronomer. And so it's one of the 5 oldest universities in the world. And since I wasn't a straight A student, the condition-based thinking, the linear thinking said, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. You didn't get straight A's. You cannot therefore get into that college. And back then I started studying mind maps. So I would take notes in a mind map form. So instead of linear notes, I would just mimic how our brain works. So it works with an idea here, another idea here, and then they're connected. And then you use colors and you use symbols, and you really absorb the information so much faster. So this was my first hack, quantum hack, to studying. And sure enough, I was able to quantum leap over some shortcomings on my education possibly, and I nailed it and I got into college. So that's just one of many things on my journey. And then I really resonated with, America, which is the, birthplace of a lot of neuroscience research and mindset. And that was also something everyone thought, how are you going to move to another country? This is insane. You don't have any money. I literally went to the flea market and sold everything I had, which as a 20-year-old girl in Poland, what I had was not a car, not a house, was shoes and clothes and bags, and they weren't worth a lot of money. And I was literally selling that so I could make enough to buy a plane ticket.
That's amazing. So what I'm hearing is as you begin to hack your brain and really just leverage the power of what we already have, you got into university and you sold everything, and I'm assuming you got to America because you're here now. And okay, so you get here, and then what happens?
You know what? A lot of things happened. Oh my gosh, it was quite an adventure. And I also noticed that I got sucked into my trauma story. I loved what you started sharing at the beginning because we're not immune to this. And I actually wasn't aware of some of my commands that were implanted in my brain during some small t traumatic incidents in my life. And so I stepped into that traumatic story, and I just exacerbated it. So I actually ended up in a 7-year toxic relationship. My ex-husband was actually turned out to be an alcoholic and a narcissist. So you can just imagine what a life like that looked like. And I blamed him for a lot of that for a long time until I did my trauma work and until I realized, you know what? If it wasn't him, it would have been someone else, because I had that story of being taken advantage of, being manipulated in my life, being the victim. And I carried that story subconsciously through my life. And so I wrote the script, and then, my subconscious mind was just looking for the actors that would play the role. So at first, this was my husband. Later on, when I exited that relationship, I found another partner, whether it was a romantic partner, whether it was a business partner, even to play that role. And so this is actually the opposite side of that same principle, that what we put out in our mind, what's deep in our subconscious will run the show. And here I was declaring, success, happiness, but my subconscious mind was running the show, and it was saying no, but the emotional charge on that story of you being the victim in your life is so much stronger. We're going to run with that. And the success and happiness will wait. And it wasn't until I really did my trauma work that I saw that for what it was, and I was able to get back in a driver's seat and continue manifesting incredible things in my life. And right now, that's part of the reason why I didn't just stop at becoming a mindset coach. I really got to develop myself as a trauma coach, to really help myself and my clients with some of those emotional traumas that actually 99% of people experience. And we call them small t traumas. And they could be very simple. It could be like the teacher asked a question, you raised your hand in middle school, and the teacher didn't call on you. Another teacher, another classroom, you raise your hand, you don't get called on. So you decide that's a small traumatic incident, and you decide, no one wants to hear from me. I'm not important. And then fast forward, you're in the boardroom with your whole team, and an executive is asking a question, does anyone have ideas? And you have an idea, this would solve the problem your team is experiencing, but that voice in your head says, no one wants to hear from you, you're not important. So you don't say anything. You want to find love, you see a woman of your dreams or a man of your dreams, and you want to approach them, and you say, and you hear the voice, you're not important. No one wants to hear from you. You don't take that action. And so the trauma repeats itself.
I've heard you quote before. I think it's I want to say his name right, but Gabor Mate, where he says
Yes.
trauma isn't necessarily what happens to you, it's what happens in you, based off of what happens to you. and something to that regard. And I know you've also mentioned, I was on your stories earlier, and you said something really interesting. You said, before positive affirmations or the success process can become effective, we must first heal our trauma, address limiting beliefs, and reprogram our mind to align with those positive affirmations. Tell me a little bit more about what that work looks like. If somebody's right now experiencing,
Mm.
or they have a client experiencing this, where do we even start when it comes to unleashing really the truest version of ourselves by healing this trauma?
Mm. Thank you for this question because I feel like a lot of the work we do as mindset coaches, healers, goes back to those releasing those traumas, healing those traumas. And you started the show with talking about imposter syndrome. Again, it takes us back to those traumas. So it is such a big key to unlocking our fullest potential. And it's almost like, until you do the trauma work, you don't have the fertile ground where you can plant the seeds of affirmations, of amazing strategies, of empowering meditations. This is really the first stage. And so there are many modalities when it comes to that. I'm trained in E4 trauma method by Dr. Erin Hall Haskell, and it's really powerful. I know other coaches who do hypnotherapy that can also help with that. There is emotional code modality by Dr. Bradley Nelson, and many others that I might not even know about. So I feel like maybe the message should be that if you work with people, if you work with the mindset, perhaps it's an invitation to explore, broadening your toolkit and equipping yourself with tools as a coach that will allow you to go a little deeper. And not all those techniques have to be very intense, that will take months or weeks. The technique I learned, it allows me to really release that trauma and heal that trauma in a matter of one session that could be even 45 minutes long. So there are powerful tools nowadays that can really give our clients that freedom that they so deeply need and get them on that path to unleashing their fullest potential and reprogramming their minds.
So when we talk about like flow, we've talked about a couple of different things. We've talked about, how our subconscious really runs the show and how we can tap into and replace some of those stories and beliefs to align with our big vision, right? And the vision, the huge, unimaginable, big, massive, I don't remember what the G was, gigantic, vision that really sets the direction, making sure our subconscious is working for that vision and not against it. And one way to do that is by tapping into and healing the trauma, revealing the trauma, healing it, so there's nothing holding you back. What do you mean when you say the energetics of success? And how does that play a role here?
Absolutely. So, what you shared and the trauma part, that also plays a really big role, because when we do our trauma work, and trauma, from a spiritual psychology perspective, we believe that everything is a gift. Nothing happens to us. We're not victims of our life, but rather we are the creators of our life. We are the cause of our life. And so if that's true, then even this traumatic incidents, unpleasant things that happen to us, they serve us somehow. And so when I take my clients through this trauma healing process, they usually come in to just release the charge, to clear that. But what they actually walk out with is way more powerful. Not only they're free of that, but there's one more thing. When we take trauma and remove the emotion out of the trauma, which is the healing process around it, then what we're left with is wisdom. And that wisdom is really what can drive us and propel us forward. So when earlier on you talked about imposter syndrome, this is really the path to dealing with the imposter syndrome, because when you suddenly get the wisdom out of whatever happened before you thought to you, but actually you process it and you extract the wisdom out of it. A lot of times it can help us get clear on our life purpose and calling. And that is a powerful catalyst for us to, get over ourselves and get out of our own way and show up, not being worried about, what will people think, what if I fail? Because if you extracted wisdom and you realize, wow, I had this experience happen to me. Yesterday I was in a coaching conversation with someone who lost her husband, and she went through the grief process. And now she's building this Angie's list, so to speak, by combining healers and trauma coaches and other modalities with people who don't even know that those tools exist, because that's what saved her going through this grief. So she now is stepping into her purpose and taking that traumatic incident, not letting it be just that, but using that as a fuel for the betterment of the community and the planet and humanity. So when we look at our superpowers, our gifts and talents, look at our passions. What are we passionate about? What are we enjoying? And combine it with our triumphs, which is where the trauma comes in, which is where the pain comes in, where the suffering comes in. And we look at the past and say, you know what? I'm not longer just pushing it away. I'm going to acknowledge that this is what happened in my past. And I'm actually going to look at the triumph, because I'm still standing. So you're still standing. Whatever happened in the past, that means you triumphed over it. And we face it, we own it, we accept this as a part of our past, and we actually bring it as a powerful triumph that we can share with others moving forward, that gives us this momentum. So I went on a little roundabout path, but I really wanted to complete that circle there with the trauma to show people how powerful it is.
So really, it's taking a trauma and turning it into a triumph that propels you into your purpose, that gives you the energy to move forward without all the baggage that a traumatic experience can kind of give you. That is so powerful. What can you give us a couple of practical tacticals? So a couple of exercises that we could do today, tomorrow, or even immediately implement with our next coaching client to begin this process.
So in terms of the process of getting clear on your life purpose, I always encourage people to first get clear on their superpowers. And that comes easy because that's conscious mind analyzing. So it's going to say, okay, I'm skilled in community building, or I'm skilled in organizational skills, or I'm great speaker, or I'm really good with organization, whatever it is. Then you create a list of passions. So what am I passionate about? And a good place to start is try to look where you spend most time with, what brings you joy, what just inspires you. For some people, it could be, rock climbing. For someone else, it's reading, for whatever it is, but communities, environments you find yourself in, and then take a look at those triumphs, things that you overcame in life. And I actually, my clients usually go by decades. So first they look at their childhood and they ask themselves all those questions, because when we were children, sometimes we had those innocent ideas that were true. We were so connected with our soul essence. And then the rational thinking kicked in and we said, well, you're not going to make money doing that. So how about you forget it? So when we connect to that little Malvina, then that, teen or young 20s Malvina, and then the adult Malvina, we can start gathering the pieces. And then I'm sure all of you had some triumphs and things you all had to overcome. So we collect all of that, and then we can actually see, wow, this is my role in this world, how I can, because every one of us can be a change maker. Every one of us has it absolutely in us to elevate the vibration of a planet, bring it more to love, to create something incredible. And it doesn't have to be, another Amazon or Google. And for some it will be. but there is a role we can play. So when we are clear on it, we can really put together those pieces. And a great example is, as a mindset coach, I could just do one-on-one coaching with clients. And when I followed that path, I realized, and as you know, I host my signature Paris retreat for high achieving women. It's the self-love and manifestation retreat in Paris. And so, how did I even come up with that? Well, self-love was the journey that I took personally, from self-acceptance to self-compassion to then self-love. I used to think that self-love was selfish, and so my sense of self-worth was really low. And I always say that, if you want your net worth to be high, you must drive your self-worth to be high. And where it comes from you really cultivating your self-love. And so that was my triumph, how I changed my life and my journey. And so I thought, gosh, this was so powerful for me. How can I share this? And then my passion, I love Europe, I love Paris, I love travel. And then I looked at my superpowers. I used to be an event planner. I'm a mindset coach. I'm a self-love coach. My mom was a travel agent. I used to work for my mom when I was 14 years old. She would take me to Paris. She said, you can go on this trip with 40 adults, but you have to teach us something, and you have to take the tour to Louvre and be the guide. So you see how I put together all those pieces. And for another coach, it could be very daunting. Like, how do you do an international retreat in Paris? But for me, because I didn't try to be another coach, I'm not doing a retreat in Sedona or somewhere else. I really put together the pieces that are unique to me. And I think this is really the secret to being in flow, because flow is a state of consciousness when we feel our best and we perform our best. And that goes to the energetics of running a successful business.
A coach once told me recently, what is best for you is best for them. When you are living your best life, that is not selfish, because it allows you to show up as your best, give other people permission to live their best life, and it's a ripple effect of explosive joy and freedom. And so what I'm hearing and what you're sharing is, once you get super clear about what's best for you and what is natural to you and what is a flow to you, that becomes explosive in your life and your business, for your clients, for your family, and for all those around you.
100%. I couldn't say it better. And that's what being in flow means. And it also is really authentic alignment. So what I see the biggest problem with any profession, certainly with the coaching profession, is when we learn the template for how to be a successful coach, and we try to do exactly those same things. And of course, there are formulas, there are strategies that we get to apply, but the discernment of, okay, what's in alignment, what feels right to us, because everything is in an energy. If we look into the molecule of our body, inside the atom, what's inside the atom is actually energy. There are energy particles. So if we were to really zoom in, we would actually see not the solid body, but it would be transparent, and there would be just energy particles there. And so we really need to be mindful of our energy, protect your peace energetically, and then aim for bliss in terms of raising your vibration. And when we're in alignment, when we're doing what I say, following the divine spark, we become magnetic, and we become an energetic match to the abundance we want to call in. So when you said earlier, I follow you on social media and there are so many amazing things happening, and you get inspired by it, and so many other people do too, it's because I am actually in alignment, honoring my authentic self, and I follow the divine spark. And how that looks like, and that takes me back to really energetics of running a business, which is that linear thinking is a lot of masculine energy too. So in business, we have divine masculine and divine feminine energy. And it doesn't matter what's your sex, that is true for everyone. And so the divine masculine energy is the one who's gonna put systems, processes, structure. It's an action oriented, analytical, it's the doer. And so sales driven activities are very much that. A lot of back end ops, that's that. And then there is the other part, which is divine feminine. And that is the energy of allowing, of surrender, of being in flow, of collaboration, of connectedness, of creative mistakes, of trial and error. And so we must bring those both and balance them both so we can experience true success in the business. And so it's so important to have well-rounded mentors and coaches that are not just steering us in one direction, or maybe one coach that does that, but we have another mentor who can help us support in the divine feminine. And this is where we can start being in the flow. So stop resisting and start allowing, because if we go into the certain strategy of, let's say, posting every day on social media and we cringe, I guess I'm supposed to do it. There's this balancing act of going outside of our comfort zone, which is always what I recommend. But there's also discernment of, you know what, if we do it with an energy of resisting, of cringing, we're actually, what we resist persists. So we're actually putting so much attention on that what we resist that we're not energizing that what we want to call in. So most likely, if you've been in that place, you're not experiencing results. So very quick shift would be, if you still want to use that strategy, would be to accept it, to settle in with it, to observe it, to allow yourself to stumble, to just find a way to get curious about this strategy, but definitely not resist it. Or find another strategy that's more in alignment. And out of that, you will actually, that one, 80-20 rule, Pareto rule, 80% of your actions will yield 20% of results. And then 20% of actions will actually bring 80% of results. So life in flow and energetics of success is figuring out what's your 20%, where you just show up fully, you're thriving and you're magnetic. People just see you for your authentic self and not as, gosh, she's trying so hard, but this is not working for her. And therefore, the message is not coming through.
So good. It reminds me of a principle we teach our clients, which is find the joy. Where there is joy, there is speed, there is ease, there is flow. And if there's no joy, then something's wrong. Malvina, I think that's a great place to transition into our speed round. I have 10 questions for you, and I want you to answer them 30 to 60 seconds long. First question, these are kind of fun. What is a meal that you always go back for seconds?
Oh my goodness, I love food so much. I don't know, but I will say tomatoes, just tomatoes, especially in Europe. Oh my gosh, I can eat them every day. They're the greatest gift that Mother Earth gave me.
Oh my gosh, so good. Tomatoes. Okay, who was your favorite teacher growing up?
My personal teacher, that was my art teacher. I tried to become an artist. It didn't work out, but I still loved what she brought in terms of opening my creativity, and I stumbled through it. But I got to experience myself as someone capable of even doing watercolor painting and other things.
What's her name?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember her name. That's so
Well,
bad of me.
You'll have to let us know in the chat when you remember. Okay, third question. What has been the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you?
Oh my goodness. Just one thing? I don't even know. Oh, those are surprising questions. I don't know. Oh my gosh. You know, I was speaking once thinking that my slides were up and running, and I kept alluding to those slides, and they were not there at all. And no one told me, and no one, they respected me so much that they were just attentively listening. And I was like, wow. So that
That
was
is
kind of
awesome.
embarrassing.
I love it. So good. Okay, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Okay, so this is from my mom when I was a teen, and that truly shaped my life. And she, I was in my teen, oh my gosh, this happened, that happened, and I was so worried about things. And she would say, the past is in the past. It's no need to, worry about it, and go back to that. It's gone. It's done. You can't do anything about it. The future, yes, we want to plan for it. We want to energize it, but it may or may not come. But what you have for sure, one thing that is for sure is this present moment right here, right now. And that truly helped me live my life because when I came to US in a matter of 7 years, I lived in 10 different places from Alaska to Hawaii to Park City to Florida. And this is how I lived my life with a sense of urgency that we may not know if tomorrow will come. So let's make the most out of today.
So good. I love it. What is a song or show that you can totally binge?
Emily in Paris.
I love it. It's so you too. Okay, how did you find and land your last client?
Oh, let's see. My last client, you know what? By embodiment. My last client literally saw my journey. She was barely in my community, knew about me a little bit. And once I was in the flow, doing the things that brought me joy, following the divine spark, and she was seeing all of this, that got her inspired. And she is a very successful a real estate broker that sells luxury real estate. So that inspired her for me to be able to really allow myself, give myself permission to redesign my life, go to Europe for 6 months, and that embodiment. She enrolled herself. She reached out to me. And then I had opportunities for her to experience my work. I started a conscious entrepreneur book club and mastermind where my clients can, experience some of my teachings. And I also have Boss Babe from the Inside Out event series where women can also come experience my energy.
I love it. So good. What do you think happens when we die?
Well, from the spiritual psychology perspective, we don't die. Our soul doesn't die. Our bodies die, but our soul is infinite. It's forever here because, when you really inform yourself on the first cause, we talk about higher self, connecting to your higher self. Essentially, we are spiritual beings having human experience. And so, as spiritual beings, we can never dissolve or die. And also, going back to quantum physics, everything is energy. And if we're energy, and what we know about energy, what quantum physics and physics teaches us, is that energy can never be destroyed. So, therefore, our soul and our spiritual being can never be destroyed either.
So good. Who are three people in your audience you want to shout out and that should actually watch this episode?
Oh, so many people. Pam Maloney, she's a rock star realtor, and she is really on her beautiful self-love journey. So her for sure. Michael Scott, he is got this great community of great books, great minds, and he is thought leader in a community. And also Suzaida Hippolito. She is stepping into her boldest year yet. And I know that quantum thinking and expansion is what she's up to this year.
So good. Now, where can people, if they feel so aligned to you, so connected to you, they're like, I want more Malvina, where can they connect with you online?
Absolutely. So my website is malvinamessler.com, Malvina. And you can find me also on LinkedIn and Instagram at Malvina Messler. You can join my free community for conscious entrepreneurs. We have weekly mastermind calls on Fridays. And I also host events I put together retreats. I have online programs and in-person coaching as well.
So good. Malvina, thank you so much for being a part of this episode and the School of Abundance. You're amazing. You're a great friend of mine, and I always learn something when I am in conversation with you. Thank you so much, Malvina.
Thank you. It was such a joy to be here.
So good. So, if you got something really good from this episode, let us know in the chat right now. I want to know, what was your biggest insight? What was your biggest takeaway? What was your biggest, just like breakthrough moment where maybe Malvina shared about her journey from communistic Poland to America? Maybe it was from understanding that we have the subconscious RAS, reticular activating system, that really runs the show, and that we can tap into it to allow our subconscious to serve us and support the big vision and dream we have for ourselves. Or maybe for you, it was really uncovering the deep trauma that may be holding ourselves back from living our very best lives. Let me know in the chat. I want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to you who are watching live with us and on the rerun. You guys are amazing. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was. I also want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, the Abundance Now Summit, happening March 21st to the 23rd. This summit is bringing over 40 expert coaches to show you how to step into abundance and sustain it, how to create abundance in your clients' lives, and how to continue to build your abundance coaching business. All you have to do is go to abundancenowsummit.com to get signed up absolutely free. And then I also want to give a huge, massive shout out to our guest, Malvina Messler, who showed up with her best self today. I'm ShawnQ, your host, your high-ticket sales trainer, 7-figure launch strategist, and abundance coach. And I can't wait to see you in the next episode.